Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division with various wind here for the Game, Set, Match tournament in Golf Clash, the game. The video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic, and before we start, make sure that you do hit the thumbs up button, also subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. You can get the best guides on the market for tournaments by going to patreon.com/golfclashtommy. We do have a Pro, Expert and Master that obviously for those of you that do want to improve your tour play as well, we offer the best of both worlds. Link directly in the description down below. Follow the info box on the right hand side to get the club distance adjustment, elevation adjustment, also what ball and club type I suggest you to play with. Have in mind that these are all suggestions and you don't have to follow what I do suggest, but there's always a plan behind it. Let's go to hole number 1. On hole number 1, we can either go for a rough bump or a bounce over shot. My recommendation is to go for the rough bump because I do believe that the rough bump will give us more hole-in-ones than what it will be with the bounce over shot. So max side spin to the left always, doesn't matter what wind you're gonna have, and then we're gonna adapt the backspin depending on what wind direction it is. So if it is a crosswind, we're gonna have the ball guideline to the hole, approximately 2.5 bar backspin. If we do have a tailwind, we need to have more backspin to leave the ball guideline short of pin, otherwise we will come in too hot. If we do have a headwind, we need to let the ball guideline go pretty heavily through the hole to make sure that we're not going to stop short in line. Medium distance with a 15% over adjustment. And I'm using a power 3 ball, wind 3 ball called a Kingmaker, just to make sure that I reduce the wind to get around 8 miles per hour in wind. Like 8 to 9. So obviously, depending on the wind strength, you can mix around to go with a Kingmaker or a Katana, depending on what wind you're gonna have. So for Pro Division, I would say Katana would be the most used ball here, and for Expert Division, I would say Kingmaker or any other wind 4, anything else that has wind 3, side spin 3 ball will be good for Expert Division. In my opinion, this is a good chance for a drop on hole 1. On hole number 2, this hole could be very easy. It could also be a bit tricky. And the easy part is if we do have crosswind or tailwind, then we can go for green without any type of issues here. The problem we could have in a situation like this is that we misjudge the second bounce, like due to the extended ball guideline to have in tailwind. So what I normally do here is that I add the spin, I stretch out my club so I can see the second bounce to be centered into the big rough patch above the water. And then I do count the amount of rings that I'm into overpower. So when I stretch out, I count 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's the amount of rings that I am into overpower. Right. Then I release, I adjust max plus 15. Then I push up those rings that were into overpower. So for the sake of the example, let's say that is 3 rings. Then I push up 3 rings. I don't go with any overpower because the push up has already compensated for the extra distance that I want us to have. Might sound tricky, but watch the video again and you will see how simple it is then to get the ball to the green area, or at least to get through the rough for a simple wedge or something like that to get the eagle. In crosswind, you will most likely have to go with overpower, and I would recommend a power 4 ball minimum in crosswind to make sure that you do have the power enough. If we do have headwind, we're gonna have to lay up, because if trying to go over with headwind, you will most likely go directly into the water. Then you choose to either lay up where we had the first bounce here in the video, or that you lay up on the left hand side and take your chances from there. Unfortunately, no video to display for that, but you know, listen to my explanation and look at the course and you will know what I'm talking about. So again, let's hope for crosswind or tailwind, then we're gonna have some fun. Otherwise, it will be a bit tricky having to lay up. So for hole number 3, this hole is way longer than the hole that we had the last time we played the Green Oak Point, the winter version, because hole 3 is completely different here, and you will notice that for the second shot. The drive is gonna still be the same. We're using, in this case, 4.5 bar topspin, and I'm gonna use 2 bars of left spin as well. The idea for me here now is to push the ball to get as far up the fairway possible without rolling into the rough. Might sound simple, but now with that little, turn with the rough there, is we really need to pay attention to not go into the rough there at all. Maximum distance plus 10, and we're gonna use overpower if we need to. But here it is, the important part is to get as close to the rough there as possible, and the further we are to the left there, the more distance we're going to get. I would say 380 yards or better is what we're looking for on the drive. Second shot is going to be somewhere between 75% club and max club. And we're gonna, in this case, bounce with our sniper over the rough towards the pin. Here it is very important when you set up your target that if you do have any form of tailwind, then you need to leave the ball guideline short or you will come in too hot and roll over the hole. Headwind, leave the ball guideline through the hole so you don't stop short in line. Crosswind, ball guideline to the hole. If you do have, you may be thinking here, why don't Tommy go for a rough bump? Because Tommy loves rough bump. Yeah, I'm a sucker for rough bump, big time. But the thing is here, I want to play with my sniper, and if I'm not using a power 5 ball here, I will not have the distance enough to go for the rough bump if I'm not having a very, very good drive. So therefore, I then value to have a consistent drive with then a consistent second shot setup trying to dial that one in. But of course, the rough bump is a possibility here, but you need to use a better ball to be able to play with a sniper. Because if we're not going to play with a sniper, we do have the Hammerhead, Guardian, Big Dog, or Cataclysm to play with, but none of them has a good ball guideline, and that will be a massive disadvantage when it comes to playing the rough bump otherwise. So that's my thought process here on hole number 3, and this hole once again has gone from, when we played the winter version of this hole to be almost a must albatross because that rough bump we had there was absolutely money, to now to be a big fight to get ourselves first and foremost a chance for an albatross, but also then to get the albatross is going to be much more difficult now. But an interesting par 5 it is nonetheless here for hole number 3 of the Greenock Point. For hole number 4, with any type of tailwind, we are going to push this drive very, very hard, because the plan here is to get the ball as close to the rough at the top possible. Why is that? It's because that will increase the possibility for us to make an eagle massively. If having a headwind here, or I would say a flat crosswind as well, we shall just try to lay up either on the left side or on the right side and just play for a safe birdie, because the green is positioned in a way that if we lay up, the eagle is not going to be that realistic in my opinion. Sure, it's not impossible, but we're gonna have to push really hard, and that might become a situation where we do miss and make a par instead, and that's not really what we want to do. But if everything goes as well as we want and the ball gets up there, we're gonna have a decision to make. Either we use backspin and roll the ball to pin, like you can see here on the video, or if you feel comfortable by going for a dunk, then you go for a dunk. That's completely up to you. If you're gonna go for a dunk, the thing that is very important, look at the blue arrows there. You want to aim at the back end of the cup. That is super important, because if ending up to aim at the pin or just at the beginning of the cup, then you'll most likely go short, and then you will not get this one to drop. So aim at the back end of the cup, very important. And I'm gonna use minus 20% elevation for the dunk, minus 10% elevation if you're gonna go for a regular shot like I showed the setup for at the start of the video. So I go for the dunk. I love the dunks. I feel very comfortable with it, but that's up to you obviously to decide what way you want to attack the pin in a situation like this. Have in mind that have once again in mind the elevation differences depending on what shot you're gonna play, because obviously if playing a dunk you don't have a second bounce to adapt for in terms of adjusting for, but then that we do have when we're bouncing towards the pin, and that's why we do have an elevation difference for the second shot. For hole number 5, I will show you 2 ways of playing this hole, where this play that we're gonna show first from a friend of mine is going to be the best way to attack the hole. But here we do need to have at least a crosswind to be able to reach over, as we're doing here now. 6 bars of topspin, 3 bars of side spin to the right. Look at the second bounce there. We're looking to have the second bounce to be just into the rough before the fairway. Maximum distance with a 10% over adjustment. Power 3 ball settings. Try to hit perfect. Perfect ball! You can see here now that the ball is going to bounce on the fairway, over the rough, sand, water, and into the rough. Well, not over the rough, but yeah, into the rough, roll out. Because now you can see here that we have an open line towards the pin, and this is going to be a really good opportunity to get an albatross. I would say that this shot that's going to come here now is going to be absolutely money. Depending on the wind angle for the second shot, we're going to play either minus 30 or minus 40% elevation, minimum distance line. So what we want to do, pack the sniper, and hopefully you're going to have it in level 9 or level 10. Max side spin to the left, and we're gonna use this ball with 3 bars of backspin. You can see here now, what we're looking for here now is to be into the funnel that is by the top left of the green. So we're not going directly at the pin, we're using the beautiful green here to get the ball to roll down towards the pin. Adjustment once again is going to be either minus 30% elevation or minus 40% elevation, minimum distance club. Perfect ball, and you can see here now how beautiful this ball comes up here. Bounce, bounce, roll up. Now the camera turns around. We know it's gonna be close. Gets in the hole. It rolls, and we'll get an albatross on a very tough par 5. So if you have the possibility to play this route on the right side, that's what you're gonna do. And I would say like this, if you do not have an Apocalypse level 4 plus, I would somewhat recommend not to play the shot on the right side, because it's gonna be a tough one to do. Sure, maybe a stretch to play with an extra mile 8, 9, Thor's Hammer 5 plus or something like that. Worth testing in the practice mode at least. But as a base, Apocalypse level 4 plus is to go with. Let's take a look at the left route, which is going to be a pure eagle route to play, but it's going to be a safe one with no risk. For the more safe route, once again, we're going to play on the left-hand side, as already said. And you can see here now that we're looking first and foremost to see if we can't get over the water and the rough, but side in the end that wind is too low and I'm not gonna push for it. So then we back up, we go with a different plan, and that's gonna be to play on the left side of the trees there, and we're gonna use a right spin, using the extra mile as well, as there is no need really for an Apocalypse level 4. In the end, it's up to you to go with whatever driver you would like in that situation though. But the more important part here, max side spin to the right, and the top spin is gonna vary. If having a straight tailwind, 3 bars of top spin is fine. Otherwise, 4.5 bar top spin, or in headwind, to go with more if possible. I would say in headwind, if you don't have more than 4.5 bar top spin, I would recommend to push up the drive a couple of rings after your adjustment. Max plus 20 is to adjust, use a little bit of curl to the right to make sure to not go into the rough on the left with a great left, as I was close to be doing. Second shot, we're gonna play on the left side of the trees. We're just going to go around it, get the ball to green, and take ourselves a safe eagle. Sure, there is a possibility of getting an albatross this way, but that's gonna be very, very slim. So add max side spin to the right. We're gonna use somewhere between half a bar to 1.5 bar backspin, depending on, once again, what wind direction we're gonna have. Max plus 10 in the adjustment. Max curl to the right and hit perfect. You can see here now the ball bounces on the fairway beautifully. It gets down to the green, and sure, we are not gonna get this one for an albatross, but you know, a little bit more backspin, we never know what's gonna happen. In the end though, I would recommend to go with aggressive route if your driver club allows. Otherwise, you know, we play it safe, we take the eagle on hole number 5. For hole number 6, our recommendation is to play with a ball that gives us wind 3 or wind 4 to try to keep the wind between 7 and 8 miles per hour. Obviously, if you're playing Pro Division, that's going to be between wind 2 and a wind 3 ball to play with. Recommend to play with minimum a power 2 ball to make sure that in a tailwind here to not go in between clubs. So using 1 right spin, half a bar of the back spin, you can see here that I'm looking to have the ball guideline pointing towards the hole. This is, once again, with a wind that is northeast, meaning that we do have tailwind and crosswind. If we would be having a flat crosswind, we would be using, less backspin, would almost even go with a little bit of topspin. In headwind, we would most definitely be playing with topspin if we play with our wood club, but we will most likely play with our driver in headwind, so be prepared for that. Maximum distance plus 20 is what I'm using in the video, and the ball that I'm using is a power 3 win 4 ball. This one drops lovely right at pin for an hole-in-one. Just to touch base about what's gonna happen in headwind a little bit more is that, again, if having headwind, you're most likely gonna go in between clubs using a wood club, so recommend to pack either the rock or the quarterback to attack the pin with any of those type of clubs from absolute minimum distance line, if that's gonna be the case. I would play that minimum distance plus 20 if it would be a driver option. So make sure to pack the correct clubs, because obviously having an extra mile, apocalypse, or a Thor's hammer will not give you the accuracy and the ball guideline that we're looking for to simplify this par 3 if you're playing with the driver. Hole number 7, and we are going to play the hole that is called NASCAR. 2.1 bar of topspin and 3 bar side spin to the right with a crosswind. And we're gonna start with the blue ring by the rough line just before +1. And here it is such an amazing thing to have the quarterback, because it has a good ball guideline and a good accuracy, and that will help us loads in getting a hole-in-one on this par 3. Playing from second tee, as we do for pro and expert, this is a really good opportunity for a drop. No elevation, medium distance, and we're using approximately 3/4 of a ball in curl to the right. Or what that means is, obviously we do want to have the right side of the ball like approximately 3/4 outside the ring to the right. Hit a great right, but if we're aiming and hitting the correct spot, this is a par 3 where a great ball as a perfect ball can also drop. It's all about what adjustment we're getting. And now we are lucky, obviously, because every time there is a great ball, we need to consider us a bit lucky. But again, I'm not saying that a great ball will miss all the time, because that's the beauty with this par 3. So the NASCAR hole here on hole number 7. Recommendation: play with quarterback and play with a kingmaker if possible. Obviously, other wind resistance ball would be good as well, just to reduce the wind and give it a little bit easier time. Hole number 8, another short par 4, and here we're obviously going to try to get ourselves to the green area. I'm not gonna rule out that if we do have a tailwind here, that the hole-in-one could be a possibility if getting the rollout as we want to. But as since Playdemic remade this hole, and it has become harder to make an hole-in-one on compared to what it was before, because before it also was shorter, in my opinion. So add all the topspin that you can with the big topper. Obviously, if you play with a Thor's hammer with a lot of topspin, or an apocalypse with a lot of topspin, or for that matter using lower level clubs with a topspin boost ball, then it's the same type of trick here. We add the topspin, we're aiming for the second bounce to be just before the second rough if we do have headwind. In crosswind, leave yourself with approximately 1 ring of gap between the rough and the second bounce. And then if we do have a tailwind, we need to back up a little bit more to compensate for the extended ball guideline to have there. The ball will then roll out for a short wedge towards the pin, and that's something that we're all going to drop if we're not making just a bad mistake. So if you can just remember the little trick with how to position the target with the focus on the second bounce, then you will have an eagle on this hole every single time. But if you don't pay attention to that, or let's say you aim for the second bounce to be just before the rough in tailwind, then you're gonna clip the rough and roll into the bunker, and then the eagle might be gone. So again, the trick and the big focus here is the second bounce once you have added spin to find the correct position depending on the wind angle that we're having. Hole number 9, you will see 2 approaches here. One where we play the normal way, but also for those of you that do not have an upgraded driver, like especially if you don't have the possibility to play with an Apocalypse level 4 plus, then we are gonna play this way. Just a normal way, bouncing on the first fairway here over the rough, trying to, have the ball to roll in between the rough on the left and the sand trap in the center. You've noticed that now when the ball is rolling. 3 bars of right spin, and then I'm using 4.5 to 6 bars of topspin. If you can use 6 bars of topspin, use 6 bars of topspin. Otherwise, use obviously 4.5 bar if that's the maximum. But I don't want to use more than 6 bars of topspin. Why? It's because if we roll too far, we have the trees in our face, and that's gonna be not good at all, in my opinion. So, when it comes to the drive as well, I used a little bit of curl to the right just to push the ball into that gap. We need to do that sometimes depending on the wind angle. If you're not gonna play with a katana, go to another side spin 3 ball, which is a kingmaker. Second shot, now we're gonna bounce over the fairway, and we're going to try to attack the pin this way. And I'm gonna say the other option you're gonna show, it's gonna be a much better opportunity for an albatross, but again, it's all about the club on the drive, if you can play the right side route or not. Because bouncing here over the rough has never really been a super way to get an albatross. We always have a chance though, but extremely tricky to, be able to adjust for this bounce, because it bounces so long and then the wind will push that ball more than it normally does, and then it's going to be tough and tricky to adjust for, as I just said. Obviously we get close all the time though. We're gonna have a simple putt for an eagle. So if you're looking to get an albatross here, or at least trying to push for it, there is never any guaranteed things when it comes to dropping shots in Golf Clash. But then take a close look here on the right side approach. Right side approach from a friend of mine. This is a route where an Apocalypse level 4, in my opinion, is the minimum club to play with, because Apocalypse level 3, I'm not entirely sure if the distance will be enough to cut the corner there. But if we do have any form of tailwind here, we should be playing on the right hand side to give us the best possible chances for a drop. Here we do start at max, and we go max plus 10 in adjustment, and then we go full overpower with slow needle and max curl to the left. We obviously are using all the side spin that we can, and the top spin will be dependent on what type of wind direction we're gonna have. The plan is to get as close to the rough line possible, because we want to play with a sniper for the second shot, because of one reason: that is the funnel. Look at my target here now. You can see that I'm going to the right side here of the fairway, and I'm wiggling left and right, and you're noticing that the ball guideline isn't moving from the position where I am, but the target is moving. It means that we do have a massive funnel, and the funnel in itself means that we do have some margin of error. So if we just hit the ball into that funnel area, then the ball will roll towards the pin. 5% elevation is what we're using here, but the club distance will vary depending on what distance you're having after the drive. So it could be all from medium distance to maximum distance of your club. And you can see here that our friend here is dropping this one right at pin for a lovely albatross here on hole number 9. So again, as what I said in the beginning of talking about hole 9, if you do have the club, you play right side. Otherwise you're gonna have to play on the left side, but the chance for an albatross decreases massively due to the position for the second shot not being as good as it is if we play on the right hand side. Thank you so much everybody for watching this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division here for the Game Set Match Tournament in Golf Clash, the game. Make sure you get the ultimate tournament guides for Pro, Expert and non-master by going to patreon.com/golfclashtom. New month, perfect chance of getting one of the packages linked directly in the description down below. Video sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. Thank you so much once again for watching, and good luck in your Golf Clash game.